For many years, I lived under the impression that success and happiness were synonymous with constantly pushing for more. Society bombarded me with messages that in order to be successful, I had to hustle harder, achieve bigger goals, and never stop moving. Influencers, self-help gurus, in the endless stream of motivational content, told me that if I wasn't constantly doing something, I was failing. This mentality drove me to a point of exhaustion, stress, and dissatisfaction. I became so consumed by the idea of doing more that I lost sight of what truly mattered. It wasn't until I hit a wall mentally and physically that I realized the pursuit of endless success was actually draining me of my peace and well-being. I decided to stop this endless cycle and take a step back. I realized that peace and happiness weren't in the next achievement, but in the present moment. The simple act of slowing down and pausing helped me regain control of my life and put my priorities into perspective. I took a hard look at the things I was doing that contributed to my stress, and I made a commitment to stop them. The following changes weren't easy, but they were necessary for my well-being. In this script, I'll take you through 21 things I stopped doing to live a more peaceful life, starting with the mental habits that were holding me back. Overthinking is one of the most toxic habits I had to face. I spent countless hours analyzing every little detail in my life, from the smallest decisions to the biggest life choices. This constant mental chatter created unnecessary stress and confusion. I was trapped in a cycle of what-ifs and doubts, second-guessing every decision I made. This mental clutter prevented me from being present and enjoying the moment. I couldn't focus on what truly mattered because I was too busy replaying past mistakes or worrying about the future. It wasn't until I started practicing mindfulness and learning to trust my instincts that I realized how much overthinking had robbed me of peace. I started small, paying attention to the present moment and practicing gratitude for what I had. The more I practiced mindfulness, the less I felt the need to control every aspect of my life. I learned that worrying about the future or dwelling on the past had no bearing on my current reality. Letting go of overthinking gave me the freedom to be more at peace with uncertainty. I stopped spending mental energy on things that didn't matter and started focusing on what was directly in front of me. This simple shift in mindset was incredibly liberating, and it created space for more clarity and peace in my life. One of the hardest yet most necessary changes I made was letting go of toxic relationships. These were people who drained my energy, constantly brought negativity into my life, and offered little in return. Whether it was friends, family members, or acquaintances, I realized that some relationships were doing more harm than good. The constant drama, criticism, and emotional manipulation left me feeling exhausted and resentful. I stayed in these relationships for far too long, thinking that I had to maintain them out of obligation or fear of confrontation. It wasn't until I recognized that peace is more valuable than maintaining unhealthy relationships that I took the necessary step to cut ties. Letting go of toxic relationships wasn't easy, but it was incredibly freeing. I started surrounding myself with people who uplifted me, encouraged my growth, and supported my journey. It wasn't about being selfish, but about prioritizing my well-being. This change allowed me to focus on the people who truly cared about me, and it improved my overall mental and emotional health. No longer did I have to waste energy on individuals who brought nothing but negativity into my life. By setting boundaries and walking away from toxic relationships, I gave myself the gift of peace, and that made all the difference. For a long time, I sought approval from others. Whether it was through social media likes, compliments from friends, or validation from my family, I placed my sense of worth in the hands of others. This constant need for external validation made me feel empty and insecure. I spent so much time trying to meet other people's expectations that I lost touch with who I truly was. I realized that the more I looked outside for approval, the less I found within myself. This external dependence created stress and anxiety. As I was never satisfied with what I had, I constantly needed more validation, and it never seemed to be enough. I made the conscious decision to stop seeking external validation and to focus on developing a strong sense of self-worth from within. I began practicing self-love and acceptance, reminding myself that I was enough just as I am. This shift in mindset was a game changer. Instead of looking to others for validation, I started validating myself through my actions and decisions. I stopped measuring my success by the standards set by others and began to define it on my own terms. This newfound confidence brought an incredible sense of peace and freedom, allowing me to live authentically, without the constant need for approval. Perfectionism was another habit I had to let go of. In order to find peace, I used to believe that everything I did had to be flawless, whether it was my work, my appearance, or my personal life. This drive for perfection led to constant stress and frustration, as nothing ever felt good enough. I spent so much time trying to make everything perfect that I lost the joy of simply doing things. The pressure to achieve perfection held me back from taking risks and pursuing new opportunities. I realized that striving for perfection was not only unrealistic, but also unhealthy. It kept me trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction, always feeling like I was falling short. The shift came when I accepted that perfection doesn't exist. I embraced the idea of good enough and began focusing on progress rather than perfection. I allowed myself to make mistakes and learn from them without beating myself up. This change in mindset helped me take more risks and be more creative in my endeavors. I stopped fearing failure and embraced it as a natural part of growth. Letting go of perfectionism didn't mean I stopped caring about the quality of my work. It meant I freed myself from the impossible standard of perfection and allowed myself to enjoy the process. This change brought peace and contentment into my life, as I no longer felt burdened by the unrealistic pursuit of flawlessness. The habit of comparing myself to others was another peace-draining behavior I had to quit. Whether it was looking at the success of my peers on social media or comparing my life to the achievements of others, I constantly measured my progress against someone else's. This comparison game made me feel inadequate, as I always seemed to fall short. I was never happy with where I was because I was too focused on where others were. It wasn't until I realized that everyone's journey is unique and success comes in many forms that I started to let go of this habit. Comparing myself to others only left me feeling less than and disconnected from my own path. I decided to stop comparing myself to others and to focus on my own journey. Instead of measuring my success against someone else's, I started setting personal goals that were aligned with my values and desires. This shift allowed me to embrace my unique path without the pressure of competing with others. I learned that comparison only breeds insecurity and envy, and it robs us of the ability to celebrate our own victories. By letting go of this habit, I found peace in knowing that my journey is just as important and valid as anyone else's. I stopped looking outward for validation and started looking inward. True peace resides. One of the most liberating changes I made was learning to stop stressing about things outside of my control. For years, I worried about everything, from global issues to other people's opinions, thinking that my anxiety would somehow make a difference. I spent so much energy trying to control situations and outcomes that were simply out of my hands. This constant worry about the uncontrollable drained me and prevented me from focusing on what I could actually influence. I realized that stressing over things I couldn't control only created unnecessary anxiety and fear. It was time to let go of this habit and learn how to focus on the present moment. I started practicing the art of acceptance, acknowledging that some things are simply beyond my control. I focused my energy on what I could change and let go of the rest. This shift in perspective was incredibly freeing. It allowed me to focus on the things that brought me peace, rather than worrying about everything else. By accepting that I can't control everything, I was able to live more fully in the present and enjoy life without the constant burden of stress. This change brought a profound sense of peace, and it was a key factor in living a more peaceful and fulfilling life.